Hello and welcome to the only podcast picking up fives at the bar and also the toy store. I'm Luke.
I'm Max.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Force for Thought.
Fire joke.
Hello, and welcome. I am so excited to be here today because we've been talking about Mandalorian episodes 1 through 6 for the last 6 weeks, and this is what I'm fucking talking about. Episode 7 is so good. I am so excited that this is... this episode, I've seen this episode before. I've seen it since release. I've seen it several times, and it still knocked my socks off. Grogu using the Force, dragons, Imperial ideological debates, and droid toddlers. Just everything I want this show to be happens all in one episode. And this is, I don't remember if I said episode 1 or 3 were a 10. I might have, because they were my favorite of the season until tonight. But this episode was so far and ahead, my favorite of the season so far. What do you guys think high level? Max?
I kind of wanted Matt to go first because I'm curious where he's at on this now.
I
did not have the same reaction as you, honestly. I think, hear me out. I think this show, this season, because I have a pretty good idea of what happens the rest of the season, obviously. So it's like
What
from
episode?
memory, I know episode 8 pretty well. So, in the context of this 8-episode show, I think they had 7 really good episodes, and then they had to stretch one of them into 2 episodes, and that's what this one was. I think as a standalone episode, this was probably one of my least favorites, but I recognize that it is an excellent first half to a great 2-episode story arc. So I'll leave it there for now. Matt, where did you land on that?
Max, I am in 2-step with you as well. If I had to write an intro joke, it would have been something about holy exposition. Man, does Grief Karga give some speeches here that are just full of exposition, and they're like, you must do this because of this, and yada yada.
This is my proposition.
yeah. See, you know what I mean, Luke. It's fun. Like Luke, you said, it's got a lot of different things going for it in the fact of like IG-11, and it's got these debates, and it's got these kind of flashy moments as well. But ultimately, I do land rewatching it. It is funny, and I feel like, Luke, I wish I had the perception that you have on this as well. I felt like the story was a bit jarring again to be like, oh, now we're gonna have this random like flashback to seeing the IG-11 being resurrected and saved. I like the Grief Karga switch out. Ultimately, I'm in the same boat as Max, maybe slightly more ahead. But I think where, to me, the show starts to really shine is at like 32 minutes after the Collector is got and they have the
client.
The Collector.
It would be
yeah,
easier if you had a name.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into it scene by scene, because the first scene really reinforces your guys' take, because that is some McClunky exposition where Mando's just flying and he gets this hologram from Grief Karga saying, I'm not a bad guy anymore, and I want you to do this and this and this and this. Mm-hmm. I'll wait for you here.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think some of it too, when I'm like looking back at these other episodes, like there were some other episodes that I didn't like as much, but I don't think I've really critiqued any of the episodes for their writing yet. And this is kind of the first one where I was like, that's pretty clunky or heavy-handed. And rest in peace to Carl Weathers, but he's also not like a superb actor by any means. So I think it might be kind of like a combination of those two things. But this was the first time where I was just kind of like, I was taken out of the Star Wars universe and put into a writer's room where I was thinking about the dialogue being spoken on a piece of paper rather than on screen. And usually when I get taken out like that, it's kind of a sign for me. But yeah, I didn't love that, but I also recognize that it kind of sets things up, and with the format that this show is doing, with the kind of monster of the week, it's like, well, they didn't really have like a continuous through line for the entire season, so now it's just like, okay, now we got to kind of jump back into this story of, the first 3 episodes where we left off, and here's Grief Karga again. But it's also, it's hard for me to say it's predictable, because I honestly don't remember what I was thinking the first time that I watched it, and I know where this is going. So to me, I'm like, don't believe this guy. Like, why would he just be saying this now? And I don't know. But yeah,
I thought it was perfectly believable. I understand what you're saying with the dialogue and the writing. I don't have the exact receipts at this time, but I disagree in the strongest possible form that you have not criticized the show's writing over the last 6 weeks. I'm certain that
I was trying to think about that.
I can't think of an exact example, but I am so confident that you have.
We have definitely critiqued the show overall. I don't know if it specific episodes, but definitely going.
That is what we're doing in
Yes.
general. But yes, I didn't know if that was like something specific that had come up already. Not that I hold this show to the gold standard of writing to begin with. I mean, again, you have to kind of take things for what they are. This show is not Andor, so it's like it's disingenuous to compare this writing to Andor. And it's like, yeah, obviously Andor writing is better, but it's different. But to me, this was also kind of like more classic Mandalorian. Like, unfortunately, it was kind of like the level of writing that I just expect after watching 3 seasons of it, if that makes sense. So it wasn't like offensive, but I think this was the first time that it stuck out to me.
For Grief Karga 2, I wonder if it was an acting choice or something behind the scenes where it's like there's a guy. It feels like, with knowing how the episode ends, right? Grief Karga then turns around later on and shoots people. Spoiler. Is it one of those things where someone's like holding a gun to him off screen or off holopod or whatever? Like, that's the kind of acting he's giving, is that he's like, it's almost like one of those like, go here and do this, please. Like, it's very wooden. So part of me is like, I almost feels like there needs to be a scene, but then if there was a scene showing he's held at gunpoint, it ruins the ending twist. But it feels kind of like that acting to me a little bit as well.
I see what you mean about the acting, and I don't disagree. But as far as that being a possible twist, he says that he wasn't tending to kill Mando and take Grogu until Grogu force healed him. So at this time, at the time of this scene, he is intending to betray him. But it's a reasonable. I mean, Mando has reasonable doubts. It's not like he's trusting him, and Grief Karga does lay out a reasonable lie. Like, we both want the client dead. Come kill him, and we both win. I agree that the dialogue is a little bit McClunky at times, but the story of this episode, I think, is great.
I agree with that.
Moving on to recruiting Cara Dune. And I talked about this when we first met Cara Dune, when I thought that she was in that space cage fight with the electric rope tying the two combatants together. That was awesome. That was so cool. Great fight choreography, great fight idea. Like the
mechanic of it.
Yeah, it was. That's what I come to this show for, and I was just it was so well delivered in this scene.
I agree.
That was such a good introduction to her character, and absolutely how she should have been introduced in episode 4. Because if Mandalorian walks into this cantina and sees that, and then she, is sitting down and having a drink, it makes more sense for him to ask the bartender what's her deal at that point, instead of what we called out in episode 4 when we did watch it, which is she's just minding her own business sitting in the corner, and he's just like, what's her deal? And it's like, she's minding her own fucking business, Mando. What are you doing?
No,
but this,
I'll push back on
she is someone to fuck with.
I'll push back on that too, but to be fair, it was established in this episode, not in episode 4. Apparently her tattoos are hella identifiable and immediately out her as a rebel shock trooper.
That's true.
So that's probably why he was asking, but that was not clear in that episode.
And that did come up when we were talking about that episode, because I said something about the tattoos, but we didn't know exactly what it was, because I mentioned that the Alderaan tattoo was like the rebel
teardrop, yeah,
was a Alderaan thing.
Which is
I had never thought anything
specifically say in this episode, but
I had never thought
needs to be a
anything of her
close-up.
arm tattoo. I did not realize that was the thing. Like the rebel teardrop, you got to be like close to observe it, but the arm one, Yeah, if that's the giveaway, which was unclear in episode 4, but if that's the giveaway, then it makes sense.
This is also
not to jump around.
Sorry, I was gonna say the writing in this scene specifically at the ending when Mando's like, "Oh, they're Imperial," and she's like, "When do we start?" Basically, like it has that level of like she's like, "No, I'm not going. No, okay." Like it was like
They're
that
Imperial.
level.
I'm in.
Yeah, it was just a little. Again, the one. With that being said, these are the biggest 2 writing moments for me were in the first 5 minutes, and so that's what I think it really stuck with me because then it softens for me as it goes on. But up front, I was like, oh, exposition back to back. But it's fine.
Classic example of you saying exactly what I want to say, but in a negative tone. Like I took the exact opposite out of that dialogue exchange. I was with you on the Grief Karga in the first scene. This scene, I quite liked the dialogue. I thought that was an interesting development to how much she hates Imperials and that she's willing to risk all this. We got to learn what she's risking, like that one line drop of she's been a lot of things since being a rebel trooper, and all of them carry the death sentence. That went hard, and then the end when she agrees to come. I really liked this scene, and I'm bummed that you didn't. Max, I imagine you're more on Matt's side with your overall take on the episode.
Yeah, there's just like certain nuggets that we get that I want to be like satisfying that you can just like add to the Cara Dune column that you're just like, oh, learn a little something new about her right there. But instead, I feel like what they keep giving us is like more questions about her backstory that are seeking nuggets instead of the actual nuggets themselves. Because I agree, I liked that line when she was talking about she's been a lot of things since she was a shock trooper. All of them carry the death sentence or whatever. But to me, I'm like, explain, like go on. Like if we're about to be working together, shouldn't we know this? But I don't know, like that, like it was almost too interesting of a fact that I was like, well, no. Let's not brush over that.
But Boba Fett in 1980, and you can't over-explain him.
I know.
If I was the editor, I would cue 5 or 6 Max rants about that exact fucking thing happening concurrently, because that's what it sounds like whenever you say that shit to me. And now you're saying the exact opposite. And no, this is great. That was a very appropriate amount of intrigue and mystery to leave a character with.
The difference between when we talk about like Star Wars or the original trilogy and modern day storytelling, like in Mandalorian, this is not going against. This is not pushing back against you necessarily, Luke, but like that idea, I think a little bit in the fact that I think in the original trilogy back then, things were so natural and there's no forward thinking of this is going to be an IP and travel and this is going to sustain and last. And I think now that we're 40 years ahead and we know that this is going to every little thing means something and it's not as pure, I guess I think is that difference for me where they're like, oh yeah, they can say what about Boba Fett because it doesn't matter, but then now Cara Dune, it's like, well, you kind of built this world over 40 years and we kind of have expectations now. Which is why Rebel Moon is so good,
between Rebel Moon, we still got to review the second one.
I am not watching that
between.
I am not watching that again.
Have you?
TV shows.
I agree.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, we both watched it. Max and I, right?
The second one?
First one. Did you watch the second?
Yeah, I watched the second one. You watched the second one too, didn't you?
I never did.
Oh, really? It's worse than the first. It's horrible. It's dog shit.
That doesn't surprise me. But there is a difference between TV shows and movies, so like I don't disagree with what you're saying. However, to Luke's point, he is referencing what I always say about Boba Fett, and he was introduced in the second film, and it's like at that point they did definitely know that there was going to be a third, so they did know a little bit that it was going to keep going, and that some could have been, I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I mean, they knew there was going to be a third, and they knew that the first one was the biggest movie of all time, so yeah, that's a valid point. If he was introduced in A New Hope, then yes, but by this point it was already something. But I kind of reject that notion as a whole, like moving the goalpost because Star Wars is so big, so you can't make Star Wars like we used to. Like there are some aspects where that's true, but you can still have mysterious characters. I mean, I know this is a pigeonhole example for the point you were making, but I disagree. We then move to Mando's ship, and they have that fun moment where Cara Dune sees all of his guns, and then Grogu grabs the stick of the Razor Crest and starts jostling it. That was funny. It didn't quite make me laugh out loud like I actually did later in this episode, but it was a fun, charming scene that I had no problem with. We then return to... Oh, sorry. I figured you didn't have anything to say about that.
I can't not say when they're just, it's clearly just like, we gotta, again, not that this, the writing didn't bother me. This was, I think, well done. But it's funny to be like, someone's gonna watch this fucking thing. Like, they were like, we gotta get Grogu off this ship. And then when they say that line, basically, did you think that's where they're gonna
What
go?
line?
When basically they're like, somebody's gotta watch Grogu? Did anyone's mind go to Pelimato? Like, the second time around, I was like, that's, what the fuck? I was like, that's
I remember
what you're
thinking that the first time around, too, yeah. I mean, it was 50-50. They're both desert planets where the person was very kind to Grogu.
Yeah.
It is 50-50, but I was also thinking, like, I wonder if this just stuck out to me more in hindsight because we do see Pelimato in seasons 2 and 3, so it's like, well, they do go back to her, so it's like they do use her again, which maybe is why in my head I was like, oh yeah, Pelimato, like she's the obvious answer. But it makes you think, if Queel didn't die, spoilers for the end of this podcast, maybe we never would have seen Pelimato again. He just would have kept using Queel as the babysitter.
Pelimato was definitely a step down.
I feel like that was the goal, though, right? And then Nick Nolte presumably was like, oh, the puppet's not working. This is too hard to film. Nick Nolte's bad on set or something, right? Like, to me, that feels like the goal was to use Queel. I mean, action figure-wise alone, would you not want to sell more of him? Versus no one's buying
that skit from I Think You Should Leave when he's just like, I have too much fucking shit on my face.
That's like, literally, that's what I feel like it is. Like, Luke, when you were talking about the mouth, they're like, this is as a reoccurring character, this is going to be too much to deal with. Like...
No, they thought that they were hitting that out of the park when they made that, and they were like, oh, it sinks horribly. But that's how it was in the original trilogy. They're going to love it. And a lot of people do. They thought that was a home run. And we're still in the first season. I don't think they were making any pivots at this point based on anything. I think from episode 1 when they introduced Queel, they knew he was going to die in episode 7.
And speaking of introducing Queel, I did not notice this until they made a big point in this episode, but this is the first time that we found out his name. All of that happened in episode 2, and at no point was Mando like, oh, what's your name, by the way?
Don't, because he didn't ask him either, or the kids. Everyone's nameless this entire show.
No, this is the guy he's entrusting to babysit him.
Yeah,
he knew his name. He was just calling him Ugnaught because he's kind of a dick. I'll pull up episode 2 and find the exact quote, but I'm sure that Queel was named in episode 2 because also I made that big stink in episode 3 about not having a name. I'm sure he introduces himself, or it would have been episode 1, not episode 2.
No, it would have been 2.
Yeah, it would have been 2.
He's introduced in episode 1.
Oh yes, he is introduced in 1. That's right. I'm sorry. You're right.
I mean,
he was introduced in 1, and all of that happened in episode 2, and there still might not have been a name. I hope
there was a name drop.
He was just being a dick, and he was just correcting him. But it felt to me like it was like a announcement. You know, this is important information being revealed for the first time.
I really want to find the direct quote now because I think you're wrong, but I'm also hosting, and I can't just go watch episode 1 for 5 minutes in the middle of this episode.
Well, I can vamp. I can kill some time because luckily the episode does that for us because then we get a 5-minute backstory on IG-11 being rewired for some reason.
That's not killing time. That was good content. I get that it's not the plot of the episode, but it's good.
It's a weird sidetrack.
It is. Especially when you have a 40-minute runtime and you're like, this is the one that's long. And then you're like, fuck, if you take out that 6.5 minutes is the normal episode length.
I'm torn about it though. Like I do actually kind of agree with Luke. Like it was interesting.
It's charming. He's a toddler? Yes, please.
Charming might be the good word for it. That might be what I'm trying to find. But it was very unnecessary or gratuitous. I mean, like they just did not need to give us all of that information and show us every step of this training along the way.
They needed to show us a good amount of it because it's not like this is, you know, it never comes up again. Like IG-11 is a main character, well,
Yeah.
in the next episode, and very pivotal to Mandalorian's story arc for the season. From their interactions next episode, and he saves Grogu, and I mean, and he's awesome and hilarious, and Taika Waititi does a great job with him, and I really like IG-11. The only thing that I will accept, well, I don't want to say like I'm gatekeeping your criticism. You can criticize whatever you want. The only thing that I won't push back on so directly is the amount of detail it went into showing his rehabilitation, because you need to show some, because he was a killer and now he's a nurse, and that doesn't just happen. But it gets pretty detailed, and I liked it, but it does maybe drag on for a bit. But it's not like they had to cut down this episode, like that wasn't like they were taking away parts from something else for this. You know, it's a short episode anyway. I liked it. Sorry, Matt, you had your take on it.
Yeah, that was it. I'm looking forward to the next scene where we get some arm wrestling action going on.
They take the blurgs into the Razor Crest because Khalil wants to. What another pleasant surprise. But yes, then Mando and Cara Dune.
Real wants to. That's the best explanation that you can say for that.
I mean, all right, if you want like a universe lore reason, like he's going on a mission, these things need fed and watered every day. Like he doesn't have someone else to care for him, so you gotta take them, you know.
Can you imagine being like, hey, we're going on a road trip, and then you just like bring your fucking dogs in my car? I'd be like, what the hell? I'd be so pissed.
That's also I think we talked about it in episode 1 with the blurgs. Matt, you brought it up, like not knowing the animals on a specific planet, and you could show up and be like, whoa, I can't believe that thing exists, let alone the way it's acting right now. Like Mando shows up to this meeting with Grief Karga with 2 other people, all of them mounted on blurgs. What a power move. We'll get there in a minute, but Grief Karga might not even know what a blurg is. That's a cool moment. But yes, Mando and Cara Dune are arm wrestling, and Grogu force chokes her. Fantastic scene. I love this scene. You see I mean, we don't know anything about Grogu, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, technically. No matter how you cut it, I think that this shows the negative impact of Grogu growing up with a bounty hunter dad. You know, he leans into aggression and dark side tendencies more than a Jedi typically would. We also see his how he wants to protect Mando because he thought that they were fighting, and this is a great scene. I'm preemptively defending it because I'm worried you guys are gonna whine about it, but I assume you liked it because it was awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did what it needed to do. My only thing was, again, this is maybe just the mood I'm in where I'm just making everything a joke, but it feels like Mandalorian, Cara Dune are like 13-year-olds who are like each other, so they're just like roughhousing a little bit. They're like, I like her, but I don't know how to show my emotions yet. But no, the scene, like watching it in that perspective, the scene's very funny. But no, yeah, I think the scene got done when it needed to get done. And it was like, oh yeah, Grogu does have this not only this power, but now he's getting emotionally attached to Din Djarin, which is nice.
Yeah, because he's force sensitive, and so you're like, well, that doesn't like not make sense. But seeing him force choke somebody, you're like, oh my gosh, like you're shocked for a second.
Yes,
you're like, you're right. That is something that's associated with the Sith, but it's like he doesn't know what the Sith is. Like he's only doing what's natural. And I guess if you're force sensitive and you do see your father figure presumably fighting someone, it's like, yeah, that would make sense. I don't know. Yes, I like this scene a lot. It does a good job of kind of making you feel like that weird, conflicted feeling inside, like this boy is going to need some help at some point in his life.
This boy needs Jesus and a can of ginger ale ASAP.
And then it's again another small scene in the cockpit between Mando and Cara Dune, but it's another scene I really like. I'm bummed you guys are down on the dialogue in this episode, because this is another good dialogue scene. IG-11 comes in and offers second meal, I think he calls it, something vaguely not from our world, but definitely we know exactly what it is. And then Mando and Cara Dune have that conversation where she says you really don't like droids, and he says I really don't like that droid, which is fair, but also you really don't like droids, but that's not the point you're trying to make right now. And yeah, I liked this scene too. I came away from this episode liking Cara Dune a lot more than I thought I did, and we haven't gotten to the clients a lot more than I thought I did, which we'll get there in a minute. But every scene with Cara Dune is just like nice and it's good. Like I like this character more than I remembered liking her.
I 1000% agree, Luke. I came away thinking Cara Dune was much cooler this time around, and being like, oh yeah, like she would have actually added. And I mean, obviously we're like years past this now, and yada yada. But I mean, I season 3 could have definitely also benefited from her her being in there, especially when you're building a world. Like obviously the characters that you've had would also help. But I'm like, yeah, Cara Dune was pretty cool this season.
Also, because it's not just, had she been in season 3, it's like more Cara Dune is good, but it would have been pretty linear, more Cara Dune and less Grief Karga in season 3, which would have also been a benefit. But yes, I think the reason I didn't like Cara Dune was because before starting this rewatch, the only scene that I vividly remembered with her in it was when Luke Skywalker shows up at the end of season 2, and she makes that snarky remark like, oh, 1 X-Wing, we're saved. And it's like... Fuck you. That's Luke Skywalker. You keep your mouth shut until you see who comes out of that door.
And also don't ruin it for us, the audience.
Yeah, that's what
we're reveling in this.
But no, Cara Dune is very cool in this episode, and probably next one too. We then have the Razor Crest land on Navarro and approach Grief Karga with his goons, as I said, on Blurgback with Kuiil and Cara Dune. Great scene. The Blurg is just the right amount of intimidating and goofy. This obviously isn't the first time we've seen the Blurg this season in this show, but like just that one shot of the Razor Crest landing door going down and all 3 Blurgs walking out, and it like takes up the whole frame. I really like that shot, and I really like this. Whatever, and it's not quite a standoff, but this meetup with them on Blurback, it adds something.
I like the pageantry that goes with it, because you know that they were like on the ship and they were talking to each other, and they're like, all right, everyone get on the mounts, and then we're going to open the door, and then we're going to go down. IG-11, you stay back. You're going to shut the door behind us. That way we all come out at the same time on Blurgback, and none of us have to get on in front of them. You know, that way we look stupid or something.
And make sure you're playing War Pigs by Black Sabbath so it's extra cool.
The music was actually really good during that scene too. The behind the scene or unshown scene that's implied that I think is more funny was the force choke arm wrestling one where Mando and Cara Dune are just sitting in silence, and one of them just turns to the other one like, you want to arm wrestle? How does that come up, you know? But they meet. Grief Karga lays out his bad plan, but whatever. They're more than a day away from where they need to go. Feels like they could have just met in the morning. He said that the sun sets fast, but like not that fast, I don't think. And maybe if it does, you don't have to meet that far. I don't know. But whatever. We're going to camp out together and have some a nice roast. Kuiil's going to feed Grogu, and then we're going to get attacked by dragons. A scene that I wouldn't say is necessary, but I love seeing. Much like others, like I've already said to other scenes. Yeah, it was rad. Dragons?
Yeah. At night too, I like the use of the darkness here too, where it's like, oh yeah, like obviously it's presumably easier and cheaper because you don't have to animate everything all the time flying in and out. You just kind of see them in the campfire light.
Yes,
and I love the use of that though, to be like, oh, it is spooky, and you kind of get this haunted house vibe where you can't see 10 feet around you basically. The one thing I didn't like about this scene, which ends up being fine, is when Grief Karga gets injured. I'm like, just can one thing go right in this show where there's not some sort of sidetrack? And then it ends up being fine, which is good. But I'm just like, God damn it. Like every time that happens, because I forget that, yes, he does actually continue with them throughout the rest of the mission. Which is good. But when that happened, I was like, oh my God, is he going to get, like, you know, he's like, now we have to go do this thing. And they don't do that, so it's nice.
That's hilarious. The show has conditioned us. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
I was just going to say, when I was rewatching it, I forget how it played out exactly as far as, you know, Grief Karga revealing that he was going to betray him or whatever. I thought for sure that those two henchmen with Grief Karga were just red shirts for this scene.
Yes.
So I was actually very surprised when everyone made it out of there. That was like the biggest takeaway that I had. But I also really liked this scene.
Yeah, it's like a.
Also, they were in the middle of the like the plane or whatever. Like they were just out in the open. There was nowhere to run. Like that is terrifying. They're under attack from these giant pterodactyls, and it's like you can't run anywhere. You're just fighting them, and you can't see them.
Good thing Cara Dune packs a Gatling gun.
Yeah, easy carry on. That's like them surviving is like the equivalent of that DJ who got in that plane crash with Travis Barker and survived and then died like 2 months later of like a heroin overdose. It's like you did it. You survived the scary thing, and then you fucking. It's like, oh my god, just what a dick punch.
Sorry, I was watching that scene. I think Grogu Force healing. Another great moment. New Force ability. This episode came out the week before The Rise of Skywalker, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was literally the week of The Rise of Skywalker, and episode 8 came out the week after. Because I remember talking about how everyone would have been so whiny that Force healing was introduced, and if it wasn't Grogu that did it first, then everyone would hate it, and everyone just willfully ignores that Grogu did it first and that it was invented for The Rise of Skywalker, which is its own separate discussion, but Grogu did it, and I loved it. And that was the laugh out loud moment when Grogu goes to heal him and Grief Karga says he's gonna eat me.
Yes,
that is so funny.
It got me this time too, because I remember that. I was like, why is he so concerned? But it is funny. I do think that they should have given more time in the release schedule, hindsight, because I think a lot of people were waiting to binge Mandalorian at the time till all the episodes were out. And so I feel like a lot of people did go into Last Jedi. No, Rise of Skywalker. Sorry. They did go into Rise of Skywalker assuming and seeing Rey heal for them for the first time versus a lot of people watching Mando.
Yeah, but
I think
now that we're 6 years removed,
a lot of that critique, because I do not remember seeing a whole lot of criticism about it. I would like to think it's people just being intellectually honest, because if I'm being honest, I think it was used and explained much better in The Rise of Skywalker. But Luke, I think, is 100% right. They knew what they were doing, and they really wanted to show this adorable character do this ability first to rip that Band-Aid off beforehand, especially coming off of The Last Jedi and then Solo.
Do you think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were like Tim Robinson and I'm doing something to J.J. Abrams so they could do it first?
He just kept knocking on their door like, hey, guys, real quick, I need you to include this one small aspect.
One of the red shirts did die from the dragons, right? There's only 2 in the next scene that Grief Karga kills, because he...
Oh, was there 3 of them originally? I thought there was 2 of them.
Oh, yeah,
there
there's
were 3
3
of them.
Kills 2 of them.
And he explicitly
okay,
says
so
that
one
these
of them
3, experienced and hardened guild hunters will be no
Yes.
match for whatever Imperial Remnant doesn't side with us right away. For an episode and a show whose action is the best part, I did not love this turnaround double draw on both of the guild hunters, because first off, it shows that Grief Karga's got that dog in him, which I appreciate, because he's kind of a bitch most of the time. So we know he can handle his own, and I like seeing that. But the way that it was just composed, really, it's the 2 bad hunters, Cara Dune and Mando, and then Grief Karga. He turns around, shoots behind Mando and Cara Dune to the other 2 people. Cara Dune and Mando pull their guns on Grief Karga right away, and then Grief Karga holds up his blasters and is like, no, it's cool. The amount of time, the amount of patience that Mando and Cara Dune should hold for what is happening right now, for a man that you actively don't trust, that you think is going to turn you over, you should be blasting well before he has a chance to convince you that it's cool. Yeah. And the way it was framed did not do any favors to that as well.
I have nothing else to add to that. I 100% agree with everything you just said.
Did you think that when it happened? Like, they are right next to him, about to shoot him, and he has a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, and the logistics of that. Like, he pulled out 2 guns with both of his hands, and he fired both of them very close to them. I mean, literally everything you just said. Like, the framing of it, where they were standing in relation to the people that he just shot. I mean, yeah, and the fact that Cara Dune and Mando would have been very well advised to have just blown him away right there. The only thing I can, like, think of is, like we've already said, Mando is already kind of on alert with this plan, and he's already skeptical. So he might not have been 100% surprised that something just went south, but
This could have
Mando is
been an
also
exciting
fairly. Go ahead.
I feel like this could have been an exciting scene framing wise, where I know they're trying to do some dialogue, but I feel like if Cara Dune and Mando are walking in front, then you have the bounty hunters, and then you have Grief Karga, and I feel like you can build that tension. So Grief Karga is behind the 2 bounty hunters, and he knows that the plan is going to go through, and you can see them getting their blasters ready, gripping their blasters, about to pull them out, and you hear the shots ring out, and then Cara Dune and Mando turn around to see the 2 people fall, and Grief Karga is the one who shot them. That'd be more dramatic, and I think tension building versus what we did see. But I think that's also potentially could be the restrictions of the volume, maybe, especially in the first season when they're getting used to things. But I don't know.
I don't think I disagree. However, the downside to doing that is it would be the 3rd time that they have pulled that exact trick in this season. Because they did it the first time with IG-11, and then at the end of the Sanctuary when they were in the woods with the sniper.
Max, they only have so many
That's
bags
true.
of
That's a
tricks.
good
I mean,
call.
they technically do it here too, but it's just more plate. They're like, let's just do it a little
It's
different.
cooler.
Yeah,
It's cooler
So you want at that point, let's do the rule
It has a
3.
spin
Let's just
element
do
to
it. Literally, yeah.
That's fair. I'm complaining about this, but I guess my only other idea is to do it like you did twice already, which would have bothered me in a different and probably more profound way. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm not making this show. What do I know?
The experts.
I forgot entirely that Kuil makes Grogu a new pod. I wish I had been paying much closer attention to the capabilities of the first pod and whether or not this second pod ends up being used. Why did he need to make a first one? Mando just said that it's not that comfortable, but like it was a good pod in the first 6 episodes. Like it was being used well, and it seemed fine to me. Did it get damaged or something in episode 5 from Toro Calican? Because they don't use it in episode 6. I know.
I'm not
But
gonna lie,
then-
Luke. One word: toys. Get this.
But it's the same pod. Like, they aren't selling a different pod toy, and I would know because the Mandalorian toy line has annoyed me enough that I do know it fairly well. But I am also curious to see what happens next episode with this pod. Do they leave with it because it's empty for a while, or maybe it won't be empty because Grogu's going to come back? All right, so it probably will be this pod, but I would be curious to rewatch it and see what we can do with this pod. Was Mando not able to control it with his wrist before? Because he definitely did that this episode, but I thought he did it in episode 2 with the Trandoshans that he flung it to the side. He definitely did. I remember that. But regardless, that's just something I'm going
pushing
to.
a button though, or did he kick it?
He definitely didn't kick it. It was a control. Well, did he kick it?
I thought he kicked it for some reason, but I could be definitely wrong about that. To me, it was just like they developed this team that they had kind of been assembling over the course of the season, and then they were like, okay, and then at the end they're all going to come together and they're all going to use their abilities in different ways. And with Kuil, like they just kept going on and on and on about him working with his hands and like earning his freedom or whatever. So it was like, all right, this guy needs to build something.
No, that
also
was
feel
awesome. I loved that exchange between Cara Dune and Kuil about him being an Imperial and her being a rebel, and they were on different sides during the war, and she doesn't trust him, and he worked for 3 of her lifetimes to earn his freedom. That scene, that dialogue was great, and I love that scene.
And that's excellent backstory. That didn't leave you with any questions. That was a very satisfying little tidbit, and it didn't feel... Yeah, I liked it.
So we send Kuil back to the ship to hole up because nothing on this planet will breach those doors. That's also good dialogue. That made me lean forward And it could have just been nothing. Like, he could have just said, "You'll be safe there. Nothing on this planet will breach those doors." Excuse me? What do we have going on in the Razor Crest? That is badass.
It's a pretty old ship. I mean, he keeps it around for a reason.
So that's just another line that I like. And then they approach the garrison, and Cara Dune starts making some snarky comments that there's more than 4 people. I think there are 3 times where she comments on it, and by the third one, it's like funny because it's 30 of them now coming up, and so that was originally a con I had for this episode, but by the 4th one, it was a pro. So I like that, and then we get the scene with the client. And I have been very low on the client for the first, 2 episodes he was in. And this scene turned me around all the way. I still wish he was named, but he is a damn interesting character. The line, would you like me to pour you some libation to celebrate the end of our shared narrative? Such a good line. That made my jaw drop just about. That is just such a weird way of talking, yet so in line for this character and this scene. Can I offer you a libation to celebrate the closing of our shared narrative? That's hysterical. And then he doesn't even blink and just said, "I would like to see the baby." I know that line, I've seen that meme a lot, and you can send it a lot with new parents, and so I see it frequently. So I knew that line was there, but his delivery of it was also strikingly good. This whole scene was great. He stands up. He gets shot in the chest the first time he stands up in his life. That's too bad, but I love
a little
this
Easter
scene.
egg for why he's always sitting down.
Yeah.
Luke, I was gonna say you just said how we should end the podcast, but now you've gone on to say someone gets shot and stuff too. But we should say that's how we'll end this podcast. The last lines of this podcast will be how should we have a libation to celebrate our narrative end or whatever.
That's such a good line. And then he goes into the imperial ideology, which it's not quite as gripping as the Miggs Mayfeld scene from season 2, but it's right up there, talking about how the Empire improves every planet it touches by way of safety, prosperity, trade, opportunity, and peace. Like, yeah, the you're the hero of your own story. Like, he definitely is convinced that he's on the right side of this, and that scene was very well written.
Yeah.
I
kind of forget where it was, but there was a part where Grief Karga said something to the client about Mando. Oh, I think it was about hanging his helmet on his wall. And then Mando was like, "You're going to hang my helmet on your wall?" And he turns to him and he's like, "Just go with it." And it's like, first off, like, that was way too loud. He definitely just heard that. Like, Mando, you too. Like, shut up. Like, you know what's going on here. Like, don't be cracking jokes right now.
Mando can get away with it because he's behind a mask. But yeah, Grief Karga saying that, like, dude, they're all watching you right now. You can't be talking like this. Yeah, that was at the front gate to the town with the scout trooper, which also scout troopers, yay. Death troopers later, yay. The
big yay. Excellent use of Death Troopers. Really
I agree.
Living up to their name.
There's just so much cool stuff in this episode. Then the
client of this episode is a 10 out of 10.
Also,
the
troopers are Jason Sudeikis and Adam Pally. Sorry, just the.
Are they in this episode? I was wondering.
I didn't know if that. Yeah. Because I know that they were they're in the next one too. Because one of them is the one that punches Grogu. Because I remember they had to issue like a pretty serious apology on Twitter afterwards.
Yeah, even though there's no way they were in the suits either, right? They were just probably the voices, presumably.
No. Yeah. Because it's the same scout troopers. It's the ones on the speeder bikes. They're the same ones from the front of that town. Yeah. Okay, so then Moff Gideon mows down the client and shows up with his big old garrison with Death Troopers. Love this scene. Love the intensity of him landing with that TIE fighter whose wings close. That's slightly different from what we normally see. And then he comes out and the way they... Like, it Moff Gideon, I'm having a hard time barring the way his story goes and ends because I don't love it that much. But in this episode alone, he's presented like Darth Vader. Like, this is sick. He looks so fucking cool.
And the way he's talking, and this is also coming off the heels of, it was 5 years apart before Breaking Bad, right? And you're like, holy shit, like Gus Fring is in Star Wars, and not only that, but like he's really cool. And we've been waiting for him for 7 episodes. And even when he's like, whatever you have in your possession, like you don't even know that. Well, I didn't say the tip of the iceberg, but something along those lines. Like all of his lines are very stoic, and he really, really is frightening. And I feel like this is the moment you're waiting for. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is where the show's gonna take off, baby.
Yeah,
And it was just such a great way to up the stakes because you had the client. He is this person who's mysterious, obviously has connections. He is control of this legion of stormtroopers who are occupying the city. And then he just gets mowed down like it's absolutely nothing by Moff Gideon. So this new guy comes in. We know even less about him, but 10 times more scary off the bat.
Yeah, Moff Gideon execution was a 10 out of 10 for this episode. And then we get to the ending of the episode, which is also a 10 out of 10. The scout troopers catch up to Kuiil, kill him, and take Grogu, which in and of itself is an exciting plot development. But the way it was shot and composed this time, as opposed to earlier, enhanced it tenfold. The way Grogu was just lying on the floor, and then the guy came back and scooped him up, that was awesome. The way the camera panned up and closed out on Kuiil's dead, burning body was awesome. That fantastic ending to the episode.
And they're calling for him on the comlink, and you see the comlink first. Yeah, I agree. And the editing, too, of just that, the cutting between them trying to get to the Razor Crest, them inside of this like cantina with Moff Gideon giving this speech. It was a great culmination. Yeah, I love that editing.
And they set it up very appropriately that, like, in a lesser version of this show, I'd be thinking, like, oh, well, even if Kuiil does get to the Razor Crest, these two people are going to be right outside shooting on it. But not a thing on this planet will breach those doors. We know for sure that is unequivocal safety, and he just doesn't get there in time.
Yep.
And it was just so unexpected, too. Like, even as they were building this kind of anticipation of these speeder bikes chasing them and you see them closing in, you still don't really think it's going to happen. And then it's just a jaw-dropping moment at the end. And I remember, even after watching this the first time, thinking, like, is he actually dead? Like, are we going to start the next episode with him, like, crawling to the comlink, like half alive, saying like they got the child or whatever? But no, he's dead. And yeah, it is shocking. You don't see it coming.
It's good in this episode, although given the context of the show as a whole, I don't love it. But Moff Gideon's line, "It means more to me than you will ever know." Like when Mando parrots that back to him in season 2, it's amazing. And the way he delivers it in this scene is amazing. But by the end of season 3, when Moff Gideon's dead, I still don't really get it.
Yeah. Power, I think is what they chalk it up to at the end of the day, I guess.
He's the only Force sensitive available, so that they can try cloning midichlorians.
Yeah.
That's
I
his
get
whole
that.
plan. He's trying to clone a super army of himself.
Yeah, but that's we need more backstory on this guy to have him be super egotistical, to really drive that home for him specifically.
Right, and especially with the context of Bad Batch, which came out well after this, but the whole thing with cloning an M count was so that Palpatine could clone himself. Is this about cloning Palpatine? Because it really seems like it's not, and so why does Moff Gideon need M count to clone himself? And there's just more
to an extent because they were both referenced as the
as Project Necromancer.
Project Necromancer, yeah.
I don't know if I would call it a continuity error. I mean, it's got to be a continuity error, but it stuck out to me because I thought it was so cool that Kuiil was riding the blurg really fast with his goggles down, because I love it when people use their goggles, unlike Bodhi,
Matthew, that one's for you.
who doesn't use his goggles. But then his dead body is shown without his goggles, so you can have that, it's definitely Kuiil, this is what he looks like shot. So that stuck out to me because I really liked seeing his goggles down, but you don't want his death scene with his goggles down. You got to see the whole face. And so I'm okay with that continuity error as well. And
That reminds me to bring this up to you guys. If I ever die around you, make sure I at least look cool before, you call for help or something.
oh, I know. I've heard you pee and poop your pants if you die in some circumstances. Like, don't let people find me like that.
That's like a normal state for Max, it feels like.
I
Also,
find them
feel
like that every week.
I feel like more people should
My
get.
wife's about to find me in 2 seconds.
I feel like more people should get buried with glasses on. It always annoys me if you go to a funeral. It's just like a fucked up thing to say. But you never like this person wore glasses their entire life, and now you're telling me they're not going out with glasses on. This is part of who you are. I know you don't need them. It's like a silly thing, but bury
As a
me
glasses wearer, it's very disrespectful to the community.
with, yeah, exactly. Bury me with glasses. Cremate me with glasses. They're a part of me. You know what I'm saying?
And then the concept art, I usually don't have much to say other than the concept art for Cara Dune. Like, you can tell they wrote her to be a strong, capable female warrior, and the casting for Gina Carano just knocked it out of the park. Like, this girl in the concept art looks strong and capable, and Gina Carano looks like she ate this girl for breakfast. Like, Gina Carano looks so badass as Cara Dune.
She is significantly cooler than the concept art, for sure.
I think it was the first, maybe it was the second picture that they show in the concept art, but one of them was of the Death Troopers shooting up the cantina from the outside,
Yeah.
which we don't see. We actually only see it from the perspective of the inside, and then when the smoke kind of clears, you kind of pan up and we see the Death Troopers standing there. I do kind of wish we got that shot, though, because the concept art looked really cool for it.
The concept art always looks so cool. There's also that one painting. It looks very Ralph McQuarrie of Mando and Cara Dune arriving at Quill's homestead, and Mando and Quill are in a deep bow, and just like the atmosphere. And I don't know. I really like that concept art painting. And then like the juxtaposition that with the Moff Gideon concept art, where Giancarlo Esposito was clearly casted before the concept art was made, and it's just like a picture of Giancarlo from the episode. Like, I know that's what concept art is supposed to be, but yeah, that's just how it happened. You got Death Troopers behind him.
There it is.
But no, the
I
one
feel
on
like-
Quill's homestead is very stylized and it's cool.
Since we're probably rounding the episode out right now as well, I assume, how would you guys rank
Yes.
the episodes now? So where would you rank this amongst the 7 thus far, since we've been ranking them every episode?
My
favorite by a wide margin.
I was might be my least favorite, if not in the bottom 3, maybe 2. But again, I have not rewatched episode 8. I'm doing this week by week, so I just watched episode 7, and it's a good lead up into the last episode, which I'm guessing will be my favorite. So it's like, how do I separate that out? Trying to separate it, I would say episode 7 is one of my least favorite of the season, which is not a common opinion. I just saw on IMDb, this episode has a 9.0 on IMDb. That's crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, that is a little nuts. This is my
I think
4th
that's
episode out of
appropriate.
7, I would say.
Wow. I mean, it has the most heart, humor, best action. I thought, man, I am very surprised that you guys are where you are on it. I guess I'm excited to see where we land after episode 8. I can't wait to watch it. What a lead in. Because I was also worried going into episode 7. I remembered that it was basically a 2-parter in the sense that it's not 2 different monsters of the week. Like, when the whole show is monster of the week up until that point, and then this one is not, it does feel like half of an episode, but it's not. Like, this is a full episode with beginning, middle, and end. Like, it doesn't just end with Grogu getting taken. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen next? Like, it ends with Kawil dying and his body. Like, that is the end of the episode. All right. Does anyone have any force for thought to leave us with? I do. I was watching Revenge of the Sith, episode 3. It's the one where Obi-Wan asks Anakin to spy on the Chancellor. You guys remember that episode, that movie? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And
Well.
I was left wondering upon this rewatch, what was the details surrounding this assignment such that Obi-Wan asks Anakin in the hallway because this assignment is not to be on record. So when did the council agree on this assignment? Do they all even know about it, or is it like just Mace Windu and maybe Yoda doing this? Because like if the whole council meets, it should be on record. Do they have meetings off record sometimes? Or is it just Mace Windu, Yoda, and then they bring in Obi-Wan talking in the halls like, hey, we're gonna do this, and it can't be on record. But then, like, do they bring in Ki-Adi-Mundi also and Kit Fisto also? And at that point, it's like, it's a whole other council meeting. And so you got to bring in everyone. And then it has to be on the record again.
Yeah, I do feel like Yoda and Mace Windu do go rogue. They're like, well, we don't need to pass this by anybody, right? Like, we're judge, jury, and executioner of this council, right?
Yeah, it's a force for thought for next week. But I can allude to it in episode 1 when Obi-Wan takes Anakin as his Padawan. Yoda says, the council doesn't agree. And then Obi-Wan convinces him, and he says, okay, the council agrees. He's like, no. Seems like you agree. You should take this back to the lot, shouldn't we?
I am the council. He has that famous line,
definitely.
I am the council. Skylar, I am the council.
I don't have any good reason to think this, but for some reason I feel like Kit Fisto, CC Tin, and Agent Kohler were also in on it just because they helped back up Mace Windu when they go arrest him. And I understand that they could have very easily just filled them in as they were like the, highest ranking Jedi Council members available at the time or whatever. But for some reason, they just give the energy of fuck yeah, we knew it all along. Let's go get this bitch. So I think that they were looped in on it. I think it was more of a group consensus rather than a couple people going rogue. I think more were in on it than just Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Mace Windu, especially for something so treasonous.
They're pretty much their boys, though, They're like, we're Mace's boys.
That would make sense, though, that the council, before adding Anakin, saw it fit to turn off the record to discuss this meeting, and then they bring Anakin in, and they don't think it's appropriate to turn off the record for the first meeting that he is privy to. We're like, we don't want to go full freak out on his first day,
Welcome to the council. All right, you want to know some real shit?
He sits down, and they just pull up a bulletin board. War crimes.
War crimes.
All right, but that does it for us here today. Let me know what you thought about episode 7, because I am frequently in the minority, but oftentimes me and the coalition of Max and Matt disagree, but usually they have the backup of the general consensus online, and this time I do, which is a nice position to be in. So let me know what you think about episode 7 of The Mandalorian, and watch episode 8 for next week, and we'll see you then.
We have the high ground. See you, Sammy.